One time, a leader, an executive actually, he gave his reporting leaders a list of items that he wanted us to follow. So we thought, okay, this was the beginning of the fiscal year. We'll follow them. And we sat around the conference room and we all read the list. And we started looking at each other like, what is this? And he saw our faces. So he said, what's going on? And we were like, sir, we understand the first one. And it was about 10 items. We understand the first one, but there are about 5 or 6 items that we don't understand. Well, he became annoyed at us because why is it that you don't understand? They're clearly written. And we had to tell them, we don't understand based on your writing what you actually want us to perform. And he continued to become, he was just more annoyed at us than ever. And he just said, well, tell me what you want me to say, because what I've written, I think is good, and you should be able to understand it. And his deputy said, sir, may I request that I talk to your leaders and they can get back with you, and just to be able to help the situation out. He said, all right. And he left out of the room. So with his absence, we just sat there and said, we can't understand what he wants us to do. And we're just sitting there and we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And his deputy said, well, I'm sorry myself, because I don't understand what he's trying to communicate to you all. So he was able to work with the executive overtime and came back. We had another meeting. He said, okay, well, I've written this out more clearly because you all said you couldn't understand. And we sat there and we still couldn't understand about 3 items that he wanted us to follow along with our staff. But we didn't have the heart to tell him, sir, you don't write clearly. You're not communicating with us. He caused so much chaos in our day, and it didn't need to be. So throughout the fiscal year, we were able to meet 7 out of 10 items, all because we didn't understand. And also on our side, we didn't have the guts to say, sir, you're not clear, and it's causing chaos within the organization. And we didn't move forward with understanding completely what he wanted us to do. So failure on both parts. Today, we're going to talk about chaos and clarity from my coach mentor, Mr. Reggie Jackson Sr. Can we bring him to the stage? Reginald G. Jackson Sr. Oh, I forgot to tell you folks. I'm sorry. Welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people. I'm excited to have Reggie here. I just immediately went to his introduction. So Reginald G. Jackson Sr. is a retired United States Marine Corps veteran. Love the Marines. Civil servant, professional certified coach with more than 4 decades of experience in leadership development. His work spans information technology, project management, organizational change, system thinking, team building, strategic planning, and executive coaching. Reginald helps leaders deconstruct complex challenges, identify patterns, and use practical frameworks to move forward with greater focus and confidence. Reginald, or I like to say, Coach Reggie, welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people.
Thank you so much, Carla. It's my pleasure. Anytime, excuse me, anytime I get a chance to be with you, I'm a yes.
Oh, I appreciate it. All right, we're going to kick this off. I always say this kind of joke between Connie and I. I'm going to ask a question from my list of questions. Okay, there's a list. However, we may not be able to hit a second one. So we're going to start off. Reggie, when leaders come to you feeling overwhelmed or stuck in complexity, what is usually happening beneath the surface?
There's a lot, excuse me, there's a lot that happens beneath the surface. But to go back to your story, the vignette you shared, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be shared responsibility. System thinking was something that you mentioned in my bio. So from a systemic perspective, what's happening beneath the surface? There are a lot of systems, like you and I right now in this moment. We are a system. And it's nothing more than another word for relationships. So think of all the relationships and how they interact with one another. When leaders come to me and they're looking for clarity because they know something's off. They may not be sure exactly what it is, but through a series of clarifying questions, I want to find out, what's going on in your world. What do these systems look like? Do they talk to each other? In the way you communicate with your staff, particularly your direct reports, what are those relationships like? Do they look at you like the dog that hears something strange it can't figure out?
Yeah.
And so it's really important to get to the heart of it. The other thing you mentioned in my bio, and I wrote it, is patterns. So what's the pattern here? The pattern is I give my staff, direction, or I have this conversation, and I always have to give more information because clearly they're not understanding what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. It's because you're not being clear.
Yes.
Sometimes I wind up doing it myself. So there are a lot of problems that are created from poor communication. So one of the things I tell my clients is, I help you turn chaos into clarity through systems and processes. The process could also be a framework. One of the frameworks I use all the time when I'm talking about effective communication is an acronym. We all know acronyms. You spent time in the government, so did I. The acronym is RICE. It's super simple. It's only 4 elements. It's easy to remember. RICE, RICE, resonate, informative, compelling, and efficient. Now, it's not linear when you use RICE to become a more effective communicator, but you want to make sure the message resonates. It's something that the people you are communicating with, whether it's verbal, written, or otherwise, even a presentation, is it something they can associate with? So does it resonate? Informative. That's something you need to tell them about or something they need to know more about. So there's some information that you need to share. C, compelling. It's got to be sticky. It needs to be something that's meaningful, which also means you need to understand your audience enough or well enough to know what's meaningful. E is efficient. Use as few words as possible. So if you're using as few words as possible and you're giving them information they need to know or need to know more about, it's compelling to the point where it's memorable. They can walk away with it. Like RICE is compelling. It's sticky. And then are you using language they can understand? Where resonation is concerned, a prime example is that leader who's on the threshold of senior leadership. So no longer are they successful at just being the subject matter expert or the smartest person in the room because they know their topic.
Right.
Now they're sharing information with other business leaders as far as different lines of business. So you're in sales. There's also marketing. There's engineering, maybe. There's finance. There's IT. You need to understand their language well enough or what resonates with them in the way you communicate with them. So if you're an engineer, you're not going to be able to use the same language with someone in finance because it just doesn't work. So does it resonate? Is it informative? Is it compelling? Is it efficient? If you can answer all those questions, even if it's an email, if you can answer all those questions, guaranteed, unless there's requisite knowledge the receiver doesn't have that you're not sure of. But under normal circumstances, if you follow RICE, your message will be clear enough. And it may not be crystal clear, but at least it will minimize the number of questions that people ask because they already have enough information. Now you're going to get into what really matters. You're going to get into the areas where clarity is best created when people are asking you really granular questions, some of the things you didn't think about, which is why you have that team to support you, whether it's a project or it's an ongoing initiative, or it's even driving toward the mission of the organization.
So When you say E, did I get am I correct?
Yeah,
Efficiency?
efficient.
Okay,
Yes.
efficient. So, and I'm glad you mentioned the story. So I remember seeing the list, and there were paragraphs. Each point that we had to follow, there were paragraphs. So they were wordy.
Hmm. Hmm.
And as we're sitting there, we're thinking, okay, what is it that you're really saying? And it's like you're saying, it wasn't efficient. It just wasn't clear. It wasn't concise. And that threw us off because it was almost like, I want you to do certain things, but I'm going to word it. And so much so that to impress you. I don't know if that was if he really thought that, but it was
Sure.
very wordy. Whereas we were lost with all the words. It didn't clearly tell us what we should have performed.
Yeah. If you can, so another thing that I talk to my clients about is, excuse me, what I call a stream of consciousness. Just get it out,
Mm-hmm.
put it down, record it, whatever it is you need to do. That's the first step. So you don't lose anything. Don't worry about trying to make it look nice. Don't worry about typos. And I know a lot of people use AI now, so that may not even be an issue. But get all of your idea down. Then look through your idea and circle, identify, highlight the key points that you can then condense
Mm-hmm.
to make it even shorter. And then how do you say this in, say, 15 words or less? I'm sure you can. The responsibility is going to be on you as the communicator
Yes.
to deliver your message.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, then whoever receives the message, your audience, they can't do their job, which is to interpret what it was you said and then execute.
And then I think that sometimes you have within an organization a particular culture that will say that you need to communicate in 1,000 words, which you can communicate, as you said, in 15 words. So I'm going to
Mhm.
put it all out there, but it really, I need to say, I need to give you one sentence, maybe two. But there is a culture that actually has that. Make it wordy, dump them with information, and it's really not information.
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, you and I both go to conferences. We've presented at conferences.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the title of a presentation,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to read it and know what you're in for.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it has a subtitle, it's still going to be less than 15 words.
Mm. That's tough for some people.
It is a skill, and it's something we need to know and learn because that's
Yeah.
how we're going to be more effective communicators.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to me before we move on. Talk to me about um, more so because the C, that's communication. Did I get it right?
Compelling.
Compelling, compelling. Okay,
Yeah.
so talk to us more about the compelling part of communicating.
Mhm. So if you think about something that is time sensitive,
Hmm.
it's important that
Yeah.
you communicate that. If you think about something that's high visibility, it's important you communicate that.
Hmm.
If you think about something that's volatile or that is risk involved, that's compelling also. What is it that's going to stand out if this phrase, if this sentence auto highlighted itself for the thing you want people to walk away with?
Hmm.
What is that? That's compelling. And it's still incumbent upon you as a communicator to make that clear. This is important. I need you to know this.
Yeah.
And this part of what's important is absolutely critical. C could be critical depending on the environment.
Hmm.
If you know if you're in cybersecurity or if you are dealing with some threat, it could be critical, right? The C and all of those C's still point to compelling. the thing that stands out, almost like a neon light or a flashing orb, something that draws your attention.
Hmm. Yeah, because as I thought back, it wasn't compelling. Um, the communication was not clear. It was just, and I still say it, it was just a lot of words on a paper. You know how sometimes people say that using ChatGPT can be chatty? That's how it actually felt. I just felt like a lot of words. So that's so interesting. It's something about having clear communication, how it impacts it impacts the receiver, but also the receiver's view of you. Because then we start thinking, well, first, you don't know how to clearly communicate. And you don't, with not being able to communicate, we know that you really don't know what you really want to say to us. So you're not clear.
100%. 100%. And I can tell you how that plays out in a couple of different ways that come immediately to mind for me. For you to maintain someone's attention, not capture it, but keep it.
Mm-hmm.
For you to keep someone's attention, you need to do everything you can to minimize whatever alternate conversations they have, whatever internal conversations they have.
Okay.
So your presentation matters, right? Like how you're dressed.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, in real time. I before we got started, I asked you about my background. It's blurred, right? Like you obviously I have a ceiling fan, but I don't want to draw unnecessary attention because that means your focus is going someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
So in situations like that, you want to make sure that you have minimized as many distractions as possible, and your communication can be a distraction. Or let me rephrase that: your poor communication can be a distraction. Because to your point, now the people that are listening, if this is a live interaction, they're having all these thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, what are they talking about? And
Yes.
what does that even mean? And so now they have their own internal chatter going on.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the presenter, you're just, spewing out all of these words. Of course, they have no idea what you said because they're too busy listening to themselves.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I've seen on social media, when we're speaking of leaders and people who are communication experts, strategists, what have you, is that I've heard, don't ask, does this make sense? Well, that's something that I've asked all the time, because just because Carla can understand it in my head doesn't mean that Coach Reggie will get it. So sometimes I have said, does that make sense? And sometimes people have said, no, it doesn't, or part of it. So
Yeah.
what's your thoughts around that?
Right. Yeah. The thing you just mentioned. So environment is crucial. It's critical because if you don't have, and I'm going to pause here. We're hearing a lot of buzz regarding the phrase psychological safety.
Yes.
Okay. This isn't just my take. It's a state of being. And the only person who can ensure psychological safety is the person themselves. I can't make you feel psychologically safe.
Agree.
We can co-create a space where hopefully you feel safe enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could feel psychologically safe in a conversation with me until I mention something that makes you feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And not necessarily because of not necessarily of me, but maybe it's a situation that, like, I've made mention about something, and so now you're thinking about that, and your brain has taken you to another place and time,
Mm-hmm.
and you no longer feel safe.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, if we don't have a relationship that's open enough, strong enough, where you feel courageous or vulnerable enough to share you no longer feel safe, I'm going to go on my merry way and have absolutely no idea what's going on with you. I'll give you a prime example. I was in a training, and this was months long, systemic coach training, right? So for coaches and systemic team coaching, sorry. And we divide up into learning groups. So one of my colleagues of mine and I in the learning group were responsible for running this particular practicum. And we had these images of different animals or different creatures. Cut to the chase. Everyone was asked to choose the image that best described how they were feeling in that moment. Also about the exercise we were doing. One of the teammates in our learning group shared with us later, "I'm so sorry if I seem distracted. I've closed my eyes because I have arachnophobia. And one of those pictures is a tarantula. And I can't get that out of my mind."
Wow.
Never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
Never would have crossed my mind. But because she felt safe enough to let us know, "Hey, I'm checked out right now."
Yeah.
Because I have this phobia.
Mm-hmm.
And I am really freaked out about this spider. Like my eyes are closed and I can still see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm letting you know I'm not with you guys 100% right now. Now that's a little bit extreme, but if you have created, as a leader, if you've created an environment where people don't feel safe enough to say, "I don't understand this.
Yeah.
This isn't clear to me. This doesn't make sense. I'm not sure what you need." Because you've been in these conference rooms before where the question will be asked, "Any questions?"
Mm-hmm.
No one says anything. They have questions, they just don't raise them.
Right, right.
And so it's incumbent upon all of us in our conversation, not just in business, but in our relationships in general, to co-create, to have in our relationship an agreement where we can say, "I'm not so sure about that. I don't feel comfortable about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what it was you said." Whatever the case, if there's dissonance,
Mm-hmm.
we need to come to one accord where there's harmony in the conversation and not dissonance.
Yeah. And it takes time for a leader to get there. At least it took time for me to allow the team members to say, "Carla, I know we're sitting here, but this is a dumb idea." And the first time, and they weren't saying it to criticize me, just overall. And the first time we started having conversations like that, I thought, "Oh my gosh, my little feelings are hurt." I tried not to convey it or show it on my face. I'm a lousy actress. But then I said, just with them, they felt free to say that, because throughout my career for years, I never felt free to say that. And then I just started asking, "Well, what do you think more about it?" And we started exploring more and more and discussing why this was a dumb idea. And some people came back and said, "Yeah, it's a dumb idea, but if we rephrase it, it may be successful." So we started having real conversations. But again, it takes some time for a lot of leaders to get to the point to say, "Okay, be yourself," and to be able to criticize the idea in a respectful manner. It takes time. You don't just wake up and say, "Hey, go ahead and be you." No.
Yeah. What you said was beautiful, and I'm not even sure you realized how poignant it is. It's a both and. It can be a dumb idea, but it's not because you're dumb.
Right.
Or it could be a bad idea, or it could not work well, but it's not personal to you.
Uh-huh.
So there's a distinction between, it's just like I love you. I just don't like what you did.
Yeah.
Right. And so two things can exist at the same time or
Mhm.
more. And yes, I'm going to say we as people, we generally take things personally,
Yeah.
which now means we're all in our feelings and we have this internal conversation where we now have just glossed over, we got the haze over our eyes
Mm-hmm.
because, we're hurt, we're ashamed, we're angry,
Yeah.
all in our feelings. And so now we've hit the pause button and we can't do anything else. We can't think about anything else. We're frozen in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so there's a certain amount of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence required when you interact with other people,
Mm-hmm.
plain and simple. And if you
And
don't have it, yeah, you and everyone else will suffer from that.
now it's something I'm going to take you back to 2017 when I joined the Federal Intern Coaching Training Program.
Federal Internal Coach Training Program. It's a
Yeah,
mouthful.
you know what? Yeah, and I have to think about all the words. So I remember we were at the HUD building and we had to go through security,
Yes. Yes.
and then we had to sign in. And I remember this is the first time that I encountered you. You went because they had two security areas, or two
Mm-hmm.
security lines, and you were able to get through faster. And you walked down the hallway, and I was actually checking in after security. And you said, "It's not," and you yelled, "It's not about you." I'm thinking, who is this guy telling us? I don't even know who he is. It's not about me. This is all going in my mind. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. It is about me because I'm trying to sign in to get down the hall. And then it clicked later on. He was talking about coaching. It is not about you. So it's the same thing with the leader. Me, I'm sitting there and I'm all in my feelings and I'm like, they think my idea is dumb, but it's not about me. It's about the
Right.
team. It's about the organization. That's why I say
Yes.
it takes time to get out of your head and your feelings and look at the bigger picture. It's just like you said you in 2017, it's not about me. Did you ever know that story?
Yes. Yes. And one of the things that comes to mind is it's typically Western culture,
Uh-huh.
not exclusively, right? But it's typically Western culture because Western culture is focused on self.
Yes.
I, me, ego.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very much like small children, the world revolves around me.
Yes. Yep.
We, we're taught or we teach children to share. That is typically inherently counter to ego.
Yeah.
Right now, let's carry this forward several decades. You're in the workplace, and this isn't absolute because there's always context. But
Mm-hmm.
under normal circumstances, if you have difficulty sharing, even if it's sharing your thoughts, there's something in there telling you if I share this or if I share too much, there will be a negative outcome
Yeah.
on me, right? If I share too much, other people will know what I know. If I share too
100%.
much, someone will steal my idea.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Yes.
share too much, people may think I'm oversharing. You name it, but it's typically something negative
Mm-hmm.
about self. And so a lot of times it's not about you. And again, there's context. It's not to suggest we shouldn't be concerned about ourselves. It's not to suggest we shouldn't think about or consider ourselves, because then there's the other side where we overdo and we put everyone else first. That's a completely different topic for a completely
Mm-hmm.
different podcast. But the point of the matter is we have to have not balance, but harmony.
Mm, yeah, it's an excellent way to say it. Excellent way to say it. So, talk to me about how you would apply rice to your relationships with your adult children.
Ugh. Yes. So before I even answer that, I will say on a broad, uh, from a broad perspective, coaching saved my life.
Mm,
Um, where children are concerned, and I have adult children, my children have children. Coaching made me, and this isn't me talking from my experience, it's me sharing with you what they've shared with me in their own words, both my daughter and my son.
mm-hmm,
The way in which I communicate changed over time, which sadly enough, they didn't have the opportunity to benefit from when they were growing up, because I didn't become a coach until after my son, who's the youngest. Uh, like I was going through my coach training when he was in college, like I think it's like his junior or senior year.
okay.
But at any rate, being able to communicate in such a way that it's information I believe they need to know or need to know more about,
Mm-hmm,
using words that make sense to them in a way that stands out, and being efficient enough such that I'm not putting myself on a pedestal to preach to them, and it takes me so long to get to my point.
yes.
So the short answer to that is, as a parent, coaching has been incredibly powerful for me in the way I communicate, because I also don't make it about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about them. Side note, I don't tell them how to parent.
Mm,
I share my observations when I feel it's appropriate. I ask them, what did you hear? How are you receiving that? What are your thoughts? Right? Because it's about them, because I'm
yeah.
communicating with them.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree with you. So it has helped me in my relationship in relationships to simply listen, because I could be a chatterbox. Coach Reggie, and you're trying to get your point across, and it's really not a conversation. It's Carla running her mouth. So it has helped me to say what I need to say and not to interrupt. And I remember going through the training. I can't remember her name. Oh my gosh, she was an excellent coach mentor to our group, because she said when we would go through the different, coaching one another, she said, you know what, you did well in one aspect. She said, and we're all sitting there, and you could see if we were on Zoom. This is our second week, and we're happy. You could see the body language. And then she said, but every one of you interrupted your client. And we said, and we started saying, you could hear the excuses. Yeah, but. And she said, no, 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 no. She said, you, all of you interrupted. She said, do it again. And then we still interrupt. And that was something that took time to just put into play, to exercise it just within our lives. So I learned, because I have a friend who talks, but then she needs to process it. And I'm sitting there going, good grief, this is a simple conversation. And this is all going on my mind. Why can't she just think, talk, 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 talk? Why? But I had to sit there or stand there and think, okay, allow her time to process it. Because like you said, it was all about her. So
Mm-hmm.
coaching has helped me to be a far better listener than I was before. Because I don't even think I was a listener. It just helped me so much.
Well, and to that point, Carlo, it's not unusual for us to listen and wait.
Mm. Yes.
Or we wait while listening. We wait for our opportunity to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really not present. We're not focused on what the person is saying. We're waiting for the opportunity to interject our thought. So another acronym, and I know you'll remember this from our coach training, is WAIT, WAIT. Why am I talking? And if you find yourself using a lot of words, have that come to mind. And then if you still feel like you're using a lot of words, or you're taking up a lot of space, it's waste. WAIST. Why am I still talking?
Okay, I don't know that one. I like that. Why am I still talking?
Because chances are, when we speak, we're saying something we know already, or we know enough about it to articulate it.
Mm-hmm.
If we get asked a question we don't know, to simply ponder on the question, you know what, you got me on that one, or I'm not familiar with that, or I'd have to think about that a little longer.
Yeah.
And sometimes, especially in coaching, if I ask a question and there's no immediate answer, I'm like, now we're getting somewhere. Because if you have answers to everything, you're not learning. It's not evoking awareness. It's not giving you a space to reflect. Because if your immediate response, or if your immediate reaction is to respond with words,
Mm-hmm.
it's something you know already, or something you feel is necessary to say. It's not to suggest that you don't have things necessary to say. But if someone is speaking, some people are compelled to give their story,
Yeah.
or to add something to it that's related to them. Oh yeah, I remember when I was, or that's very similar to, blah 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 blah. It's like, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Coach Reggie, I hear it again. It's not about you.
What, like asking yourself the question, what is it they're really wanting to share with me?
Yeah.
Now, you could respond with, wow, that really makes me think about blah blah blah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because even though their share isn't about you, you can let them know what they said had an impact on you.
Mm-hmm.
Or that it gives you, like, it evoked awareness for you. It gives you another way of thinking, or like it shifted your perspective. So how we're communicating in that way is helpful, because if that person is sharing something with you, they are the communicator. It's their responsibility to use words, phrases, to use language that resonates. It also requires us to be far more, there's another I, it requires us to be far more intentional with the words we use.
Mm.
And if we're intentional with the words we use, sometimes it also means the pace or the tempo of our speech slows down, because now we're thinking about what we're saying.
Wow.
There's more care in our word choice. I'll give you a prime example. My daughter has, my daughter has 4 children. My son has 2. So her 2 youngest and my son's youngest are close in age. 2 of them are 6, and the very youngest, the baby, is 3. So when the 6-year-olds get together, if I have conversation with the both of them, the words I use are going to be much different from the 3-year-old.
Absolutely.
Right? My daughter's second oldest and my son's oldest are months apart. And they're more like sisters than cousins. But at any rate, the words I use with them or the conversation I have with them, the manner in which I speak to them is going to be different from the 6-year-olds. Now, it makes sense, however, when we look at professional maturity or when we think about vernacular from a generational perspective. You and I have come to learn that when somebody says it's been a minute, it doesn't mean a minute.
Right.
Right. So all these phrases and colloquialisms and certain things that are, I'll say, indigenous to culture, like where you grew up. When you use these words and phrases, it's important to understand how well your audience will understand. Super short. And this is an example. I remember I was young. I was less than 10. And I was at my aunt's house, one of my mother's sisters. She said, baby, go down in the basement, look in the icebox and bring me so-and-so. I went downstairs. I'm looking around. I don't see an icebox. I didn't know what an icebox was. So I said, Auntie Ruby, I don't see a box with ice. She said, baby, you don't see that icebox down there? I said, no, ma'am. And then she thought, she said, laugh. She said, no, baby, the refrigerator. I said, oh. Right. And I remember that, right? That was 50 some years ago.
Yeah.
Telling my age a little bit, but words and phrases, right? So the words she used didn't resonate. She used few words. She was efficient with her words, right? But the R wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that was the subject of the request, so to speak, right? Like I forgot what the item was.
Yeah. I guess as soon as you said icebox. Hey, Coach Reggie, I want to give a shout out to Karen Friedman. She said a couple of things. She said, greetings from She said, excellent conversation. She said, yes, I feel compelled to say something. And so it is rude or selfish to share your story. That's her question. So, well, let's go a couple of minutes. Actually, Coach Reggie, we're way over, but hey, it's Coach Reggie. It's no problem. So her question, we'll close out Coach Reggie with the question from Karen Friedman. So is it rude or selfish to share your story? Over to you.
It depends. And I'll tell you why. Because that's not a binary. That's not a yes or no answer.
Agreed.
I would say, I'll start off with selfish. It could be selfish to share your story if someone else is sharing their story with you and it's important for them to get it off their chest. Like understanding your role in the conversation. Now, if you're just having conversation, it may not necessarily be rude or selfish to share your story. You want to ask yourself, what could be the possible impact to my audience, right? If it's one person or more, when I share my story. Is my story relevant to the overall context of the conversation? It could be, right? Because you could just be sitting around having conversation.
Yeah.
That's different from if I come to you, I have an agenda with my share because it's something I need you to know. And then you take the spotlight to share your story. So now I may not even know whether you heard me or not. So now here's another internal conversation I'm having. Was he or she even paying attention when I was talking? So there's some clues to pick up on. So Karen, it's a great question. It can also be a complex question. I would say there are times where it isn't rude or selfish to share your story, and other times it may be. It all depends on the impact of when you share your story.
Yeah. And I would say also, let's say you're an employee and you're speaking to your leader about a particular situation. Let's say something as simple as, I need to be off this afternoon. Then they're like, well, wait a minute, it's 12:46. What do you mean this afternoon? Well, then you can go into your story and explain to them, this is the reason why. I'm just not coming up. You know, my child, I just received a text. My child is severely ill, and I need to pick my child up from daycare or school, what have you. So I would say, yeah, it depends on, I agree with you. It depends on the situation. And definitely. Well, Coach Reggie,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to close out. And you know, I could talk to you when we're on the phone, you know we can go an hour or more.
Indeed, indeed.
I thank you. I want to thank Karen Freeman for chiming in. Appreciate your question. Coach Reggie, thank you so much for coming. It's been a
Thank you for
pleasure to
having
hear
me.
your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom. I certainly appreciate it. And that you're coming quickly. We just spoke yesterday. So thank you very
Yeah,
much. It has been my pleasure. And for those of you out
absolutely.
there, you can join if you're interested. You can join my newsletter. Connie will have it in the comments. You'll have an actual email address that you can contact us for our daily newsletter, and also information about Coach Consulting Group. Again, thanks to Coach Reggie. He is awesome. Anytime I call him, Coach Reggie is always there. Coach Reggie, thank you again. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks on Lead Like You Mean It, people. We're out of here.